28.1, 6 shadow flicker.
Yep, so come down from there.
You can put a space between 1 and 2 there.
Oh, yeah. Well, he says it need a subject in order to be clear regarding shadow flicker limits. So you guys should just write down shadow flicker limits.
Yeah, that might answer the mail right there. He just
I think
needs a
he's looking for,
modifier
I think he's
here.
looking for a WEF shall produce no more or something.
Oh,
I don't know if we need to limits, yeah.
just leave that. All right, this is from before too, Bruce.
Yeah, I mean, we can even mess with it, but, you know, lawyers can get,
I know, but maybe we should just not have it, is my point.
what,
Why do we even say that? He says it's not clear to me why it's here. It's not clear to me why it's here either.
look, go back to
Right
his
there.
letter.
It says, it's not clear to me why this provision is here.
Oh, because flicker at the intersection of roadways, most ordinances actually just limit it to time, but flicker at an intersection could lead to an accident because
Well,
somebody could be.
I understand that, but okay, so the context of the other two tell you no more than 10 hours of flicker per year, no more than 10 hours of flicker per year on a roadway, and then this is just kind of and oh, by the way, it's possible. So what does this, in a regulatory sense, I guess, why?
You should say no flicker. If,
You can't say that because the one right above it says you can.
no, not on a roadway, but intersection would be different from,
Yeah, but we're on a roadway, it just seems in conflict.
Right, I think it shouldn't be there. I think David Sevchuk's correct.
you know, I think, well, because we don't have a lot of intersections to worry about. But the point of it is, you don't want flicker at an intersection because it can interfere with somebody's sight and they could pull out.
Okay, well, how about this, okay?
No,
okay.
no flicker is possible.
Mitigation, shadow flicker at intersections must be mitigated. Or something like that.
That's pretty broad. Kind of
Is,
I think we're opening ourselves up if we.
I think that Dave Sevchuk's right, just get rid of it.
I think that may be.
That's the safest course of action, Bruce.
yeah, well, it's pretty meaningless to the town of Clifton anyway, but.
So.
Well, right, it says it's possible. But what Dave Sevchuk is telling us is, yes, we know, but first you have basically, in looking at the old one, A is a limit, just like here. You have a limit, and then you have a limit, and then it says it's possible at a roadway, but it's on a limit. So usually you're going to make a list of limits. You don't have limit, and then piece of information.
Reversed.
On 6.3,
Okay.
you had a bunch of stuff beforehand that said these are not possible. Right on that paper that you gave me, right? You took out a bunch of stuff that made
That
3.3.
makes that ass backwards.
Okay, so this says here in the old one, let me just go back and see if it comes up actually. How was it?
Doesn't pop up.
Probably got moved is what happened instead of being deleted, or you just rewrote it. So Bruce, in the old one it says shadow flicker and blade blend standards. Well, we actually broke the blade blend standards apart. because we said that you can't do it at all. So we said in the new one, you can't have any blade glint.
Yeah, but you're not talking about glint.
No, I know. Listen, I'm just looking when in the new standard, we say you can't do it at all. In the old standard, it seems to just discuss it. So here it says you can't have more than, it says the application will not be approved if the study estimates that the duration of flicker will satisfy any of the following conditions. And then it says there are more than 10 hours of flicker per year, like we already have. There are more than 10 hours of flicker per year on any roadway. Then it says flicker is possible at the intersection of any roadways, but that still doesn't make sense in that context. Then there's D, it says blade glint, defined as the intermittent reflection of the sun off the surface of the blades of a wind turbine is prohibited. Okay, so we said the same thing, we just put it in its own paragraph. So the only thing this did is just say that you're gonna not approve it, but I mean, this just says that you can't do it anyway, so it kind of says the same thing. This, what ends up happening is this particular
You took
sentence.
that sentence out after the shadow flicker. You didn't just take out blade glint. You took out the whole thing after shadow flicker.
Here, you read it and tell me.
Yeah, on the old one.
Read it, got it?
Yeah, I brought it up here. What was supposed to happen was we were supposed to just take the words and blade glint.
So what do you, just tell me, just recite for me what you want me to write.
Put back in after, okay, shadow flicker, take limits out and write standards.
Because I'm willing to do whatever, it's don't want to
And
get
after
confusing.
that, the application will not be approved.
Right, well, that's kind of understood, it says you can't do it.
But this is the explanation of what you can't do. Application will not be approved if the study estimates.
Okay, but how are we gonna deal with this flicker thing? And that still isn't
Right,
gonna help
because
us.
now these are the standards underneath. First, you have to say the application won't be
I know,
approved.
but a second ago, what he told me a second ago was that we shouldn't have any shadow flicker at intersections, okay?
That's
So,
right.
right, so just listen for a second, Bruce. So then if we're gonna write in here that the application will not be approved if any of the, okay, all right, it is confusing to read, so, because it's more like a sentence. So really what it's saying is, if shadow flicker is possible at the intersection of roadways, it won't be approved, is what you're really meaning here.
Yes.
Okay. 'Cause the other ones aren't written the same way. I mean, I'm getting into this like,
Okay.
see what I
If
mean?
you
I
read the whole
see what you
sentence,
mean now.
The application will not be approved if the study estimates the duration of flicker will satisfy any of the following
Okay,
conditions.
well, how about this?
There are more than 10 hours.
I get what's going on now. I was just, it is confusing.
So if flicker is possible at all,
Well, how about
Will
this?
not
So
be
let's just keep the sentences all in the same tense. We'll say, shadow flicker is not allowed at the intersection of any roadways. And then
put
they're
the
all,
sentence in back under shadow flicker standards and it solves the problem.
no, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Don't fight it.
Is not allowed.
I guess I find a little confusing, if we're gonna allow up to 10 hours on a roadway, well, intersection's part of a roadway, where do you measure the 10 hours at, or where do you calculate it at?
Anywhere, on any roadway.
Except, it can't be on the intersection.
At an intersection, you can have
It
zero.
can't have zero.
Zero.
That's a fairly standard,
That is, okay, well,
although there are some ordinances that actually allow some.
So now they're all the same thing. So now it just says no more than 10 hours of show.
so in theory, you could have 100 yards down the road, you could allow up to 10 hours, but you get to the intersection.
Yeah, but it's just like the other standards. If you were only 100 yards down the road, the chances of you having some at the intersection are pretty good. It's like all these things. Shadow flicker doesn't just end at a spot, it gradually fades out over a space. If you looked at the chat in the application, it's not there's no absolute line. So within a range of the intersection is still going to be that.
So here, this building, just speaking hypothetically, you could allow up to 10 hours, but when you hit the 189 intersection, you can't have any.
Can't have any. Because the thing is, at least with the application before us, there isn't any roads or anybody's houses or.
Right. But anyway, now, I don't like that other thing at the beginning, it just makes it so then the sentences are just wrapped around and it doesn't, I mean, this is basically a standard, and it's really easy to see, you can't do any of these things.
Right, and just like with the sound, we should have put that sentence back in.
So just to play devil's advocate.
Shadow flicker, see, you're not saying what will happen right now if there are more than 10 hours of flicker per year. We used to have that line in there, the application will not be approved.
Well, this is, okay, how about this? Then you don't have to worry about it, check this out. Because this, we keep consistent language. It's a performance standard, it's not a submission standard. It's a performance standard, you can't delete, you can't do it, done.
It was a performance standard anyway.
I know, but now you clarified, you use the main words for it. We're good, Bruce.
Oh, before you go in, I got one more question for you. On blade glint, the intermittent reflection of the sun off the surface of the blades of a wind turbine is prohibited. Are you going to put in there because paint is a flat paint, or, I mean, you have reflection off a windshield on a car. Is somebody going to come along and say, hey, the sun shone off the blade one day, and, I mean, how do you enforce that? What do you do with that? How do you prove it? How do you disprove it? I mean, we know that it was proprietary on the paint sample being given to the planning board because they wouldn't give it to us. And you okayed that. But it seems to me like that ought to be cleaned up a little bit.
Whereas I thought we had talked about this a couple months ago, this blade lamp thing.
I thought you had taken it out completely.
We took out the requirement for a blade glint study because it can't be done.
I thought it was based on proprietary.
It's based on
information.
But it also can't be done. It's not one of those things that absolutely cannot
No
be done.
engineering way.
So if it can't be done, then
You can't do a study for it. It's just like with this ISO contour maps for ambient sound. It can't be done
Before construction.
before construction. Yeah, there's no way to predict it. So having a study, we took the study out. We never took out saying what we did do is simply say that they have to provide.
right, well then there'd have to be just a certification statement that the blade's on blend.
Yeah, which is pretty much what they do.
Pretty much what they do.
Well, that's what the certification means. It's effectively there will be no blade glint. At least off the big ones. I can't tell you if there's any off the cheap ones. For some of the cheap ones, they don't put those proprietary coatings on. Some of the little ones still use nice shiny blades.
Because they're using a flat base paint.
It is, but it's also a paint that lasts for 20 years and expands and contracts and doesn't crack. So that's why it's.
It's on my house.
Paul's got a point. How do you prove that it happened? How do you disprove that it happened? And what's to stop Beckford from just saying, I saw the glint? It happened because I say it happened.
I don't care if you take it out. I'm just thinking smaller ones will produce glint. And if it bothers somebody, well, then it'll be too bad. The big ones, it really isn't a problem with because of that proprietary paint coating. But you look at a lot of the small ones, they're nothing more than nice shiny fiberglass blades. Even then, it's not a huge problem.
So you get a statement from the blade manufacturer that says that the blade doesn't produce glint.
That's what we've already asked for.
What we got was a letter from them saying this paint is a flat so-and-so meeting the IEC standards and da-da-da-da-da-da. But they've changed the matte finish of it so that it wasn't like it was 15 years ago where it was an issue.
So maybe we should just pull it then, if you can't define it.
Yeah, it was just pull it. I say, it's definitely not a problem off the big ones.
To remember this thing, so I'll have to take care of this tonight. Figure that out later.
Actually, if you pull that one, it won't cause a problem.
Yeah, it will, because I gotta go to 16.5 there, right? 6 point, because that was,
Oh, that was full.
that was 4, because it was
Okay,
4.
great.
Right, so I know, I'll deal with it later, so it won't be that hard, it's just gonna take you like 10 minutes to go through and double check everything. I just don't feel like doing it here. Okay. We defined sensitive receptor, we're good with that. So now, 14.810. I mean, I don't know, sometimes, Dave is looking at every little thing, I don't know, being a secure site, one you can't get into, I don't know. He said the Webster's dictionary definition is the default.
To prevent unauthorized entry or something like that.
Is that what you really want to put in there? Because people are gonna want a snowmobile, they're gonna want to hike, they're gonna want a four-wheel drive. Are you saying that you don't want that up there with a secure site? Bull Hill is wide open. There are no gates. You can drive all around in there.
I just think leave it alone, I mean, I'm not gonna fork everything that David goes with.
Well, you really just want to keep them from getting into the turbine.
Yeah, the tower. Like the
Well,
tower.
that is
That's
all
all.
clarified in other places, that the doors have to be locked and the gates, the gates around the substation have to be locked. But what that says is a secure site.
Perimeter fencing and all, at least that's what it first meant.
Well, that's what it seems like to me, but is that what you really want? I mean, do we have places on the maps where gates are gonna be? Is that what you're talking about, secure site?
I think we just leave it alone. Yeah, 'cause
Actually, I think it should be taken out.
You
do that too. Well, I mean, you could,
First you have to define secure site.
That's Pandora's box.
Exactly, it's Pandora's box.
have Secret Service.
Control that's to prevent access to the turbines or something like that.
That is already covered.
that's covered someplace else.
Take it out. I mean, if it-
What you may, take the cheap way out and say may be controlled if, or some kind of wiggle waggle.
Yeah, that's even worse than,
Well, when you say secure site to me, that says you got.
No, I know, I'm trying not to get my military mind into it, because I agree with you, Dave. Somebody told me, go make a secure site. Your site and my site probably would be pretty close, but it might not be the same as what Vern might think, so.
and someone could easily argue, they need to put a fence around the whole
When you
place.
keep from renumbering, just say, not used or something like that, just some kind of a placeholder. So you
No,
don't get
no,
into it.
because then you'll open up a big.
I don't know, I'll think about what you said, that might be a good secondary position. I could just write down not used.
Just something that way you don't get into
Maybe
numbering.
reduce them.
And we can just have a thing that, we just have to delete it rather than renumber everything.
Yeah, you're right, maybe I'll just do that, that might be the cleaner way to go.
Easiest way.
Yeah, that actually sounds pretty smart. I'll go back and take care of that. I think I'm gonna do it that way. Actually, that's a great idea, because it will make it easier for people to read and everything else. I've been reading it, so I that's definitely what I'm gonna do. So I'm just gonna go. You know what? I've got a copy of this at home, so actually I can just do this right now.
Also, so is it generally accepted around the industry that they don't fence in these, I know in Texas they do not, I mean, these things stretch for 50 miles, so,
The substation is fenced around.
yeah.
The substation is where the power comes down to and then goes up to the 115 line. But there are no fences around turbines, no. And, you know, I think it's been in everybody's interest to leave it open so that people can snowmobile and ride and walk and do whatever they want to do. But, you know, if you need to make sure it's a secure site, then does that mean a guard?
You know, it's, well, coming from the government, when you say secure site, that has a connotation.
Yeah, definitely.
That, you know, someone else not in the government may not have.
Yeah.
All right, I agree with you, Dave. I think though that is the smart thing there.
It's not fixed.
It's a great fix. Okay.
Changing the guys every 8 hours.
A1. So what does that mean, Bruce?
His wording is probably better legally. I mean, they mean the same thing.
So you're saying,
Wait a minute, bring his back up again. Reference to specific standard, specific standard. Yeah, I think. Yeah, his is probably a better legal language for it. As far as I'm concerned, they actually mean the same thing. Then again, lawyers will look for, if there's a way to say something in 10 words instead of 2, they will do so. If they can figure out how to use 20 or 100,
even better.
ooh, pretty.
So now, A2.
Is there another paragraph to that?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's wrong. Yeah, last sentence, right?
I don't see the problem.
Well, I think what he's trying to say here is, here we said, the specific standard stated in this appendix shall be used. Okay, it's a little bit different. Yeah, there's a slight, yeah, that's different. I don't know, I don't think it's confusing either.
But
Okay, I see, he's saying this and this are in conflict. Where there are differences between the procedures and definitions of this document and the ANSI standards, this document shall apply.
Okay, it is the last sentence where he's saying the most stringent requirements shall apply. Yeah, that could be in conflict with the first sentence. Yeah, the last sentence should
Just
probably
delete
come
it.
out.
If there is a conflict, then how do you resolve it?
This document shall apply.
Okay.
Because basically the last sentence says, what if the other standard is more strict? So now you've got one telling you to use one and one telling you to use the other. Possibly.
And you're saying
Use this one if there's a conflict.
Okay, Bruce, what do you have to say about this one?
I'm sorry it's not clear to him. It's clear to the, that's the one we already went over.
Okay, good.
It's clear to a sound engineer.
Okay, what about this?
That's the one we already took out.
Okay.
We dealt with these.
This one too? Yep, okay. Alright, now this is what we're left with. Are the retroactivity clauses. So, he says that, in a nutshell, and he'll probably say this again tomorrow, and we have to have a reasonable answer, and probably I'll write something down. That he's concerned that, well, obviously, somebody will be upset and potentially want to take it to court. So then they'll feel that their vesting rights are, there may be vesting in the case in the Superior Court decision. That may be a form of vesting. So the question would be, are rights vested or not? So then after that, I mean, it's really up to the courts to figure that out. I mean, to me, I think the answer should be, as far as whatever, the town shouldn't defend it. The town should just write it in here because it was a technical error that shouldn't have been in there in the first place. So I think we owe it to fix it. You know, people shouldn't have had to put up with it in the first place because it was wrong, and to put it in there. And so if there are issues post-writing it, the affected parties can just go deal with it with each other. The town just should not engage. That'd be my answer. That's what I'm going to tell the select board tomorrow.
Can they avoid engaging?
Excuse me?
Can they avoid engaging?
Well, I mean, I think what they can do is they can just basically tell the developer, you know, or whoever the parties are, that they're not going to come in on the side of any party, and do some minimal thing just to acknowledge that the case exists and let the parties deal with it.
Yeah.
And we might spend a couple $100, but I don't think we should spend thousands of dollars defending it. And but that's what I would recommend to the town is that, you know, if it gets into court, that the town tell whoever the parties are that they're affected that they have to figure out whether their case is stronger. Because it doesn't really affect the town, it affects the parties.
If a lawsuit's filed and includes the town will have to at least address that.
Well, that's what I mean, they could just acknowledge it, but then they can just acknowledge it'll cost a couple $100 to go through, maybe $500 to go through and just acknowledge that it exists, and then tell the parties that we're not gonna defend it, and then, you know, if they want it, then what will happen is, you know, a party who wants to deal with it will have to go and request to intervene on behalf of the town, and the court will probably grant the request, and just like it already did, and then we'll just do it.
It would end up being a civil lawsuit between two parties.
Right, it wouldn't really be us. I mean, I'm not saying we're gonna spend zero, but it would be minimal.
What is, you say about it?
That's what I just told you, he doesn't want it, he doesn't like it.
But we've also got arguments for it too, so.
Excuse me?
It said we've also seen arguments for it too.
Well, no, I agree.
And it's been used repeatedly by many towns.
Well, his position that he'll probably address tomorrow is that there's that the variation that's very minor is that this is, I guess, you know, or I don't know, what would be the word for it? You know, interjudicial or whatever, or interjurisdictional, because the jurisdiction went from Superior Court to Supreme Court. So this is an interjurisdictional issue versus a municipal issue. Oh, I definitely agree. Like the situation over in Eddington, their case is probably okay because it's not between court cases.
Are you sure?
Well, actually, I'm not sure. I'm just tossing it out there. I was trying to just, because I don't know who,
As far
what
as I'm
something's about.
concerned, the judge as much as told us to do this.
Well, that's what I think too. And again, I'm not saying that we're gonna spend zero on it, that we'll spend minimal on it, and then whoever the parties are will have to deal with it.
I say just leave it like we've had it, because it's an error that
We shouldn't have had in the first place.
we should have had in the first place.
But that's kind of a very short story on it. I'm sure that Dave can go into a few thousand words about it tomorrow.
Is that what the meeting tomorrow is about?
Well, no, the meeting tomorrow is because the select board has to, vote to put this on the warrant for June 10th. And they have to actually have a vote to put this on a warrant, and because the warrant is what we're gonna vote on June 10th.
Yeah.
So what happens is they vote to put it on the warrant. The reason we have to do it now is because absentee ballots have to be out 30 days prior because of the type of process that we're using. Because it's congruent to the other elections, and the absentee ballots all have to be at the same time. It's going to be interesting to see if the school district can get their stuff together on time. I'm kind of curious about that. That's not my problem though.
Yeah, they're having quite a battle too.
Oh yeah,
Payback from last year.
I know.
I say go ahead and leave it.
I vote to leave it.
That's really,
That's what I think. They wanted to weigh in on.
they corrected a mistake, what's wrong with that?
In the absence of, not having a history before we got here.
Right. So, all right, well, that was kind of, just wanted to,
The lawyer, he's gonna be here tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
And to discuss this, or?
Yeah.
Okay,
so I'll probably just write a summary of what I just said about why I think we should do it. I mean, I think we addressed all those other issues. He wanted us to change the wording on some of that stuff so he can understand it, and like Bruce discussed in his, fairly detailed response here, it can't be done. I mean, just because he's not an engineer, it's not our fault. I mean, and we can't water it down and
We're
dilute
also
it.
correcting,
Well, no, look at all the other things.
no, I'm saying this right here is also correcting what can you call it?
It's a mistake.
Yeah, it's correcting a mistake. It's correcting something that's been an abuse.
Right, it's a technical error. So,
We leave it.
so it was basically 3 instances of similar situation. So we're not go over all 3 instances, but. So, well, one other thing I did, that's right, I talked about that last week. on how to change the ordinance. There's questions about that too, apparently, so tomorrow that could take time. I don't know how long, we meet at 10 o'clock.
How to change the ordinance?
I didn't have one of the ways you could change the ordinance, the way that that petition came in, it came in under an area that we didn't cover in our ordinance. Remember last week, I talked about that,
Right, but anybody can petition the select board.
to do stuff.
That's in Maine state law.
Right, so I just stuck it in there. So. He doesn't like the retroactivity in that either. Well, I mean, it's a bunch of bad situations, because this is, tomorrow, the options would be the select board to say, no, we're not putting it on there, and that will get a lawsuit automatically. Okay? Put it on there, and then, you know, it passes, and then people are unhappy that it was on there in the first place, you know, and then there'll be a lawsuit. Put it on there, and both the ordinance and that passes, you know, and there'll be a lawsuit.
I don't care, I'll be in Tennessee,
You know, I'm just saying.
Somebody's gonna be unhappy either way, so.
Right, and there's gonna be a lawsuit like almost no matter what, so
Let's do what's right.
just let everybody have their say on the ordinance and exercise their constitutional rights for free speech, and you just go for it. So, but that's basically, that'll be discussed tomorrow. So who's gonna be at the meeting tomorrow? You know, I'm gonna be there. You're gonna be there? You'll be there? Bernie, will be there or not? 10 o'clock tomorrow?
What time?
10, town hall?
Maybe.
Or will you be climbing a tower somewhere? You're not gonna be up there stringing some 340 kV somewhere?
Not anymore.
I've got some alarm now. It's nice meeting.
So anyways, is there anything else that you think we should talk about tomorrow at that meeting?
I can't think of anything, I mean, they're just taking up whether or not to put this all.
Right. This is what I wrote on the website. Maybe just a quick thing. I don't know if we have to have a formal cover on it or not.
We should make a formal, vote to present this all to.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that in a second. That's what I'm gonna, this is what it says now, and this is what it's gonna say when we get here tomorrow. So, you guys think, is that good, or you want to say something else? You guys good with that? I'm gonna change them all, the headers to that.
Or should we say final proposed?
No, because that's what it said last time, it looks stupid after it was voted in to say the word proposed in there. And that's why I wrote, we'll just, you know, change it afterwards if it doesn't get voted into working draft, and just leave it posted as a working draft, and
Now,
just,
this does still say under either section 1 or section 2 or whatever, that this replaces the previous ordinance.
yeah, I know, where is that? Well, yeah, it does. I know, I didn't know whether I should take that out or not, because that's part,
Needs to be left in there and the pad of vote if any single provision is found.
right. Yeah, I think I just leave it alone. I didn't really know how to address that completely. I just thought it'd be useful to leave it alone. I don't think it's gonna hurt anything. And it keeps it in the ordinance.
Well, yes, because this is basically a total replacement.
It is.
There's so many revisions, you don't want to be voting on individual amendments.
Right.
So it needs to say it replaces.
Oh, you want to say it replaces the the March 11 one?
Yes,
In total.
in total.
Or supersedes previous editions or something like that.
I know, that's what we always bring down, right?
I'm superstitious now.
Indicate it's the whole thing, not just a piece.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I think it's, I forget what article it's in, one
Just
art.
double check the language on that one.
No, I'll do it. If Dave has a final issue with it. Because tomorrow, my plan is to go through the board. If the board has like any last things to do, you know, I'll have my thumb drive here, and then after the board does whatever it's gonna do, or whatever, then we'll just go over on Debbie's computer, or this computer, or whatever, and go make whatever changes the board wants tomorrow before it hits the, you know, before Debbie prints the final copy that's gonna be the one voted on. We'll just take care of it tomorrow if there's any changes by the board.
Is David actually gonna make a presentation or anything like that?
He usually doesn't. He usually just shows up and then people ask him questions. That's usually how it works. He doesn't usually make a presentation.
Will you be making any kind of presentation? Or?
No, I just gotta pass it to him, and, I mean, I'll just give him a letter. I mean, I can make like a short one, but I was hoping not to make a big presentation to it, because, well, one of the things I think about this, maybe you guys disagree, and so if you want me to do something different, I'll definitely do it. But this has been worked on since January. Every Wednesday night, we've had multiple public hearings, you know, and all the information, every single meeting has been summarized on the website. All the questions are answered, and I think any presentation would be superfluous.
I guess what I'm getting at is if he would address, or if there's any plans to have him address the retroactivity aspect from a legal viewpoint.
Probably people on the planning or on the select board are going to ask him that.
Okay. Because I think that's important that. you know,
He's okay with the retroactivity on the mobile home parks and the gravel pits, just to make sure everybody understands.
Will there be at this meeting ability to any citizen to ask him that question, or is that our?
Well, Carol apparently made it open to the public, right?
Yes.
So. That's why I told you what he said tonight, in his own big secret.
Okay, it's in section 1, and it appears that effective date, section, well, I'm looking at an old one, number 9 is good. You may have to reword number 11, or whatever you've got the new number of. New numbering. This is the very last repeal of prior ordinances.
They're in 10.
Oh, I am.
That doesn't go to work.
Oh, get out of there. Sorry. You know what? Let's pull that.
Article 1.
That's because that's where the old,
Right, that needs to be reworded to basically say it replaces the ordinances on
they listed all of the little sheets of paper.
Except for there, no, went that way.
Well, the easy way around that would be something to say, this ordinance supersedes the ordinance of, 15 February 2011, and all previous editions or something, just
Yeah, I think